All right, so today we are going to be reviewing Tight Lines by Allee Richards. So this is actually an ARC copy. I didn't realize what an ARC copy was, and I didn't realize this was an ARC copy when I got it. I just wanted it in a giveaway, and I was like, okay, cool. And then when I got it, it said ARC, and I was like, fun. But essentially, I think the only difference is there's no like acknowledgements, because she probably hasn't written it yet or like hasn't edited it yet. And this has like, it's not corrected. So there are definitely like quite a few spelling errors, sentences I don't finish, which really throw me off. But you know, you can't deduct for that, right? Because it literally says uncorrected. So I thought I would read this before it came out at the end of June and bring out a review in case people are thinking of whether to buy it or not. So we'll start off by saying, this book, I give it a 4 out of 5. So a lot better than the first one. And now click away if you don't want spoilers. But let us continue. I'll try and make this one a bit more like coherent. The first one, I was like super nervous. But I'll try my best. I literally, this is a bit of like a random side note. Literally yesterday while I was sleeping, I was trying to sleep. And in my mind, I was just like trying to like say what I would say today, because I was so nervous. I'm hoping, I didn't want to write stuff down though, because if I do, I know I will just get like, it'll be like way too much, like, you know, like in year 8, like where you're just like reading like this, like that's not exciting. So hopefully I have like a bit of a thing in my mind. So hopefully it's like structured enough, but off the cuff enough that it's exciting. Let's go. So the pace of this book, this book is really short, by the way. It's like 220 pages, and the font size is like, really like, it's quite big, and it's quite spaced out, which is fabulous. I can't be doing like that, like Bible size, like font this big. Like I went to a Catholic school, and like my Bible, like font was like so small, and the pages are like paper thin, and I was like, I can't read this. I'm struggling. So I appreciate this book isn't like that. But despite it being super short, I would actually still say it is medium paced, which is fine. I like fast paced and medium paced. As soon as it hits like slow paced, too much effort, man. Like there's absolutely no need. But this book is really good because it's medium paced, right? And then we'll move on to what the book is actually about. So it's split into 2 halves. The first half focuses on the main guy, Luke, and his life in regional Victoria. And this is interesting because I'm Australian. I'm as Australian as I can be, being brown, right? I was born here. But I don't read enough Australian fiction. So this book is based in regional... I don't remember which region, I'm sorry. I want to say regional Victoria. It could be a lie. I really apologize. I don't remember. That's really bad. Does it say here? Okay, it says they live for the summer, so that's not helpful. Oh wait, small town coastal life. I don't think this is regional Victoria. I'm really sorry. It is a regional town in Australia though. But it follows the lives of Luke and his best friends, Maddie and Josh. They're twins. And then this girl who comes down to that coastal town every summer. Her name is, oh my God, why am I struggling? This is not good. Her name is Millie. And the first day she comes with her best friend, Lily. But from the first, I think she only comes that one time, and then onwards it's just Millie. So it focuses on those 4 people, and it just focuses on Luke and his life. And it's really interesting because one thing I like about this book is it's really realistic, right? Like they script the characters and she writes the characters in a way that like every decision they make, the way they act and all that is actually super realistic, which I feel like can sometimes be hard to write because you can write whatever you like, right? So you can write the most bullshit thing ever and be like, yeah, they did this, even though like, you know, a normal person probably wouldn't, right? But this book is like super realistic, and that's really cool. And yeah, it follows Luke's life, which is, I guess, like decently, I don't know if it's like normal, right? I mean, I don't live in regional Australia. So I don't know what the normal is there. I don't know if it's the same as Metro, but essentially just shows him like, you know, mucking about with his mates, getting like, having no real like kind of path in life. And then they meet another guy named Ian who's a really bad influence and kind of gets him into drugs here and there. And then he tries to get off them, and then it just doesn't really work. And then it comes to the climax, which is that Matty, I still don't understand what happened to this kid, because I don't think he drank, and he didn't take drugs that night that this happened. It happened on, I think, New Year's Eve. But they for some reason collapses, right? And then they need to but they realize originally everyone's like, oh my God, he's dead. But no, he's not dead. So like, okay, we need to we'll just take him home. It's fine, right? And Luke is the one that drives, and he's like off his rockers, right? Because he's taken drugs. But Josh, one of the twins, is like, just drive. We've done this before, and it turned out fine. It doesn't turn out fine this time. They get into a car accident, and Josh dies. And the second half of the book is pretty much everyone being Matty, Millie, and Luke, how they kind of deal with that trauma and live their lives post, right? And again, that's what I love about this book, because I've been through some trauma myself. And I love how realistic it is, right? Like, for example, Matty in the book, he's super driven, really hardworking. He's like, I want to get out here. I want to do something. The accident happens because it happens when they've all graduated year 12, right? So they're like going into the next stages of life. Millie wants to become a writer. Luke kind of I think he actually he was like, I suck at everything, but I'm pretty decent at cooking. So he's like, maybe I can be a chef. Obviously he goes to jail for this, and Millie and Matty, nothing happens to them, right? Because they were just passengers. They didn't drive the car, Luke did. So it follows the first half of the book is from Luke's perspective and his life, and then the second half of the book is Matty, Millie, and Luke. So Matty's perspective is interesting because he's trying to handle this trauma. Obviously, he doesn't, his brother dies, and he's not sweet, let me just go to uni and I'll be swell. No, he is kind of just consumed in his trauma, right? He's at uni, but he talks about how he's handing assignments late. He's barely there, right? But he knows that there's no repercussion per se, because everyone knows that he's going through this trauma. So he gets a lot of not second chances, but he gets a lot of for example, some of the classes has 90% you need to be there, but that doesn't apply to him because he's going through this. And then he gets a bunch of money from his brother's payout, insurance payout, and he just is pissing it away because his parents are like, okay, put it towards your uni and then get a nice apartment after, this is for you. And he's just pissing it away, right? So you can kind of see these aren't great decisions, but it makes sense because this guy's going through something, right? And he's also gay, and he's trying to kind of deal with that as well. And then Millie's trying to be a writer, and this girl is struggling. She's writing things and no one wants them. No one wants to publish them. They suck. According to other people. They never show snippets. She thinks they're decent, but I mean, obviously everyone who writes stuff thinks their own stuff. You don't write shit, right? And then with Luke, it doesn't show Luke in prison, but it shows him post-prison. And it kind of shows him... I like it because it doesn't show him as this reformed man where he's oh yeah, he's oh, I've learned so much from the experience, all this. He's just kind of dawdling about life, right? He works in his parents' business. His parents, because he returns back to, I think it's Wathagi. Again, I apologize. I think it's Wathagi or something that sounds like that. Next time I'm going to write these big things, I'm really sorry. I thought I remembered it. No. Yeah, he returns back to his hometown, lives in a house that his parents bought there. They live elsewhere. And but he's back there and he's working in his parents' business. And he's kind of just like dawdling through life. And Millie actually returns back to that small coastal town to live for a bit. And they kind of connect. And I took this as, because in the first half, Luke mentions how much he's like, I love Millie. Like, she's great. I'm like jazzed. Millie is all about Josh. So that doesn't happen, right? But in the second half, they get together, they meet up frequently, and then they hook up twice. And I'm like, okay, like maybe this will have a happy ending. No, they have a massive argument, and then I assumed, like most books, massive argument, next day, next week, next whatever, they reconcile and they're like, oh my God, like we should be together. No, that doesn't actually happen. They never talk again, right? There's no ill will, it shows in the end of the book, but they don't talk again. And then Matty, for example, comes back, because obviously he's not living back home. He comes back to what's called hometown to visit his parents, and he's like to Luke, like, let's meet up, right? And even then, like, I'm like, okay, it ends with them saying like tight lines, which is just like, there's like two meanings, but the way they say it is more just like, all right, toodles, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe they're kind of mates. They never talk either, right? At the end of the book, it shows that Luke is not friends with Millie or Maddie. Maddie and Millie are like besties. Maddie ends up being a comedian because that's how, I think it's interesting because it shows how like trauma can change you, because that's how I think he deals with his trauma and how he's able to kind of not share it, but process it through that. And it also helps like him come out openly as gay, right? That's what I got from it anyway. If other people think differently, let me know. And then Millie's book career, it just doesn't work. So she's currently running a podcast and has him on the podcast to talk about his new comedy show. And it ends with Luke listening to that podcast and like heart reacting it and saying, oh, great job, Millie. And Millie just heart reacts it, right? So there's no ill will, but it ends in a way that like, it's not like a nice happy bow, happily ever after. It's kind of like, not up in the air, but it's kind of just like very, just normal. Like they're not, all three of them aren't like buddies that come together and like grief and they're like, oh, we shouldn't have like let each other go. They're just kind of like, it is what it is, right? Like everyone is still processing the trauma and still going through it, right? That they make that very obvious. They actually talk about the death in the podcast. And like Luke kind of mentions, not like directly Josh is dead, but he like mentions that kind of incident indirectly. But everyone kind of reaches their new normal, right? Like even Luke, like he actually, they make it seem like, because he talks about like eating with the wait staff or talking about wait staff, it makes it seem like he's working in a kitchen now as hopefully some sort of like chef, not like chef, but maybe like assistant chef or whatever, right? But it just shows them all like where they all are now. And that now is just not exactly where they thought they'd be, but where they are. And that's what I love about this book. It's very like no nonsense kind of vibe. Like the easiest way, it's just very realistic. And that's what I love. Like I haven't read a book like this in a while, which is just super realistic. Like, for example, like it made me frustrated at times because I was like, why the fuck are you doing this? Like this is silly. But it's like realistic. Like for example, Luke, as I mentioned, Luke gets in with Ian because the twins are like, Maddie is focused on studying, this is back when Josh was alive, he's focused on studying in VCE, and Josh is like hanging out with his new girlfriend. And then Luke's like, okay, cool, so my two friends are like busy, what do I do? Right? So that's why he hangs out with Ian. Ian gets him on drugs and he makes a couple of mistakes. He steals something and the police are like, look, we're going to let you off the hook this time. No more. Of course he does it again, and then he gets put on his record, and his parents are like, you can't see it anymore. Like, you need to be on the straight. Like, you can't be doing this. And then for a little while, he's actually like working at his father's butcher. And like it looks like he's getting his life back together, and you're like, oh yeah, you're rooting for him. And then next minute, he ends up doing the same thing again, right? And you're just kind of like he goes back into drugs a little and drinking, and you're just like, why? That's stupid. Like, you're getting your life back. Like, just do that. But like, obviously, realistically, these kind of things isn't like, it's not like you don't just like learn from it and then you're like swell, right? Sometimes you falter, sometimes you fall. This book shows that. Frustrating as hell to read, but it's realistic. So essentially what I'm saying is this book is very realistic. I was gonna say 4 out of 10, it's awful. No, 4 out of 5. You guys might be thinking, you're like gassing it up. Why is it left that extra point? Like, what happened? I can't tell you. Like, when a book is a 5 out of 5, it like sticks with me for days. This book did not stick with me for days. It's not a bad book by any means, but it just didn't hit. Like, stick with me. It's a great book though. And also one thing, and I can say this, I'm Australian, okay guys? I'm Australian. I can say this. But there was way too much like Australian lingo in there. I was like, and it's like kind of gross at times. Like, it talked about them like the twins and Luke when they were young, like swimming in the sea and like pooping, and then it like kind of following them like a trail behind them in the sea. And I was like, I don't need to know those details, babe. Okay, I don't want to know it. No thanks. And then also I had to like literally Google some stuff. One thing in particular, I like how I remember this, but I don't remember what coastal town they're from. My priorities. Like, it talked about how Luke had brown chunder on his lap, and I was like, the fuck is chunder? I was like, did he shit his pants? No, it's just vomit. Like brown vomit. It's brown because you've like drank beer or something like that, and it's like that color. And I'm like, oh, okay. Interesting. So like, I think maybe I'm not Australian enough. It's a slight disconnect. Like, at times I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about then. Like, what's going on? But like, yeah, I guess that's not even really a negative. It's just like, that's just maybe not for me. But I guess maybe that's why, maybe I'm not like the like fully correct audience for it. But that still doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the book, right? Maybe that was a difference between a 4 and a 5. But yeah, overall, great book. You should go read it. A very quick read, especially if you're trying to reach your like Goodreads, Storygraph, however many books you said you wanted to read this year. If you need a quick read, it's a really good read. So see you next time. Bye.